Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining today's wellness presentation, What is Your Stress Pressure? So we will be having Aya RN Shannon Truax, cardiac critical care nurse and now certified health coach. She was an Aya traveler. She'll be walking us through today's presentation on how to know whether or not you might be a little too stressed and some tips for managing that for the nurse lifestyle. So I will hand it over to Shannon so she can walk you through these wonderful tips. Thanks, Shannon. And, just a few housekeeping items before we start the presentation. Please do, if you have comments or questions throughout, enter those into the chat box. And if you're on your mobile device, you can tap on your screen and find the person icon at the top of your screen and then choose to send that chat to the presenter, Shannon. So without further ado, take it over, Shannon.
Thank you, Heather, for that wonderful introduction there. So welcome, everybody. So good to see you guys hopping on to listen to this talk today about what is your stress pressure. So we're going to get into what that actually means. I'm sure you guys know what stress is, and I'm sure you know what pressure is. So we're going to put it together, and we're going to talk about that in this presentation. So as we get started, I just want to go over kind of the agenda for the talk tonight. We're going to review a little bit of last week's points for anybody who's on the call this week that wasn't able to make the call last week. We're going to talk about the reasons people are stressed in the medical field, and I'm sure a list of reasons are popping in your head right now. We're going to talk about what is your stress pressure. We're going to figure out first what is stress pressure, and then we're going to figure out how you can find out what your stress pressure is. And then is stress bad? Is this word that we say stress kind of like how we say Mufasa in The Lion King. It's kind of gives us the shivers a little bit. So we're going to talk about, is it even a bad thing? We're going to talk about maintaining an airway, but for ourselves. We're going to talk about getting outside and what is the best medicine. All right, so this is just the disclaimer that we put on all the slides. This presentation is the thoughts and comments and ideas of the presenter, which is me, and so that's what this disclaimer is about. All right, so let's do a quick review from last week. Last week we talked about what some of the side effects are working in healthcare. We talked about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we talked about how, there's more charting than we ever wanted to do. We talked about long hours. We talked about non-medical people may not understand how your day was, the staffing issues, the admin politics, all the stressful situations that come with the job. We love what we do, but it's stressful at times. We also talked about a phenomenon that's going through the hospitals, and we talked about how healthcare burnout is one of the things that seems to be spreading through the hallways of the hospital systems. There's no hospital system in particular. It's just kind of a thing that's going on with healthcare providers who spend long hours and many days putting everyone else's needs before their own, and sometimes that can lead to burnout. So we talked about how stress was the #1 reason for this burnout, which is why we're going to have this be the topic of discussion for our talk today. So if the #1 reason for burnout in the hospitals is stress, then we need to do something about that stress. And I know there's not always things that we can control and things that we can do to take care of the stress. I mean, it does kind of come with the territory, but we're going to find ways to better take care of things as nurses, as healthcare professionals in the hospital, both within our job at work and outside the days that we're not working at the hospital. All right, so according to the National Institute of Occupational Safety, they have done studies that link the factors of stresses for nurses in particular. So this was their study that they did, and these were the reasons that they gave for what they were finding to be the reasons people get stressed. So work overload, too much to do, and not enough time definitely is up there high on the list. Time pressure and the fact that everything's just hurry, 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 especially working in critical care situations. I mean, time is muscle, right, when we're dealing with patients. Lack of the social support from the higher up areas, exposure to infectious disease, needle sticks, work-related violence or threats, sleep deprivation. They go on to list another 12. There's 12 reasons that they came up with. And this was their findings. And I don't know if the person doing the findings was a nurse or if this was just somebody who came in and this was their thoughts. So this was my thoughts on the topic. These are my 3 top stressors at work for nurses. #1, I'm going to say, is charting. And I don't know what kind of charting system you guys have at your hospital system, Epic or Centricity or Cerner or whatever you may have on the computer. Would you believe that there are still hospitals that do paper charting? And I can actually say I have done paper charting before, and it doesn't matter. Paper charting, computer charting, either way, there is a lot of information that you have to document on your patient besides actually taking care of your patient. And so that becomes a stressor in our field, especially when the equipment that we're working with doesn't always work the way we need it to, and it's difficult to deal with. So I say charting is probably one of the number one stressors for us at work. On top of that, not having an appropriate team. So if you've ever worked one of the shifts where you're short-staffed and there's not enough people to even work with you and everyone's just kind of trying to pick up the slack or fill in, that's a stressful day already because you're already behind what is determined to be safe practice for taking care of those patients. So that's a little worrisome. But when I say not having an appropriate team, that also could mean that maybe you have enough people there, but their skill set is not very strong. And so you have a lot of either maybe new graduate nurses or nurses who maybe have been in the field a long time. They just don't know what they're doing. And so when you have those team members, it does make things a little difficult as well. So either way on those fronts, those can be stressors. Also, my number 3 reason that I think is what causes stress for nurses at work is the unrealistic expectations. So they want everything perfect and they want their patient perfectly smiling and you know, cheering down the hallway like you might see on the commercials for your hospital system, but that's not exactly how it is in the day-to-day life. So those unrealistic expectations of you having all the equipment you need, you have all the staff, the doctor's smiling as he hands you orders, and the family members are perfectly content, that is not real life. And so there's a little bit of unrealistic expectation to what your shift's going to look like and how the day might go. So these are my top 3. You guys can kind of chime in and say what some of your stressors are that you have at work or what you feel is appropriate. Some of you may even say just not having good, healthy food to eat or having, you know, anything to eat at all or anything to drink. So we'll get into that a little bit more. But I love this cartoon that says, I'm sorry I couldn't answer the call in a timely manner. I was too busy charting, but I couldn't answer your call because I was too busy charting. And that sometimes is how we feel at work, right? All right, so healthcare providers, what is your stress pressure? I guess we need to go over what exactly stress pressure is. So according to physics, pressure is a force, and stress is the result of that force being applied to a system. However, in the medical field, usually we're checking a lot of pressure. We're checking pressures on our patients. We're checking, you know, blood pressure. We're checking central line pressure. We're checking every kind of pressure in the system that we can possibly check. We want numbers for. So in our world, pressure is usually a force that we measure, and then stress is usually a result if that pressure is bad. So, you know, if you're checking a blood pressure and then your blood pressure is bottomed out on your patient, that creates stress. Same way as if your pressure is extremely high and you just got a post-op patient, the doctor specifically said don't let them have high blood pressure. That's another cause for stress. So it's a little wordplay, but that's kind of my definition of what stress would be like for us here in the medical field. All right, so do you guys recognize any of these pressure management devices? Some of these are within the hospital and some of these are not. But these are all different ways that we measure pressure. There's a way to get really accurate pressure checks on our patients. There's ways to get really accurate pressure checks for water, fluids, air. Different things we can check. However, there isn't really a way for us to check pressure on ourselves. Like there's not really like a stress pressure machine that you could hook up to, put your arm in, and then you come out and it says, yep, you're stressed. So how do we gauge that? And I'm going to talk about that here in a minute, but I actually had an opportunity to write an article for Nurse Advisor. And, you know, I mentioned that, yeah, we have the monitors, cuffs, and devices to tell us what's happening with our body's pressure, but there's really no stress gauge telling us when our top's about to blow. So this is why stress is often overlooked or pushed to the side. You guys can check that article out later, but that's just, I kind of did a topic discussion about this and got some great feedback about that. So what do we do? So if we have no way to really measure what's going on with our body as far as stress is concerned, then how are we supposed to gauge that and then treat it or manage it? So the best thing we can do is we have to listen to our own body. We've got to pay attention to ourselves because it's going to tell us. Our body is actually designed to protect us. It's designed to keep things in balance. It loves that homeostasis. So when we have that in check, you will know because you will feel better. And when not, you start to feel a little bit of the tension. So you really have to pay attention and listen to your body. And the reason this is important is because everybody's body is different, and everybody's body will present stress in a different manner. So for you to figure out your stress pressure, you really have to go back to yourself and listen to what it's saying. Some people will have like neck pain, shoulder pain. Some people get GI upset and stomach issues. What is your body telling you? And pay attention to those signs. A lot of times we wait to listen to things until it's too late. So if you haven't dealt with the pressures in your life, the alarms will go off, just like in the hospital with our equipment. When we have equipment in the hospital telling us what blood pressure is like, what all the other heart rate, our oxygen, what all those things are measuring, if something's wrong with it, then we can take action to correct it. Same thing with your system. Your body will give you some alarms, and they will go off. And if you ignore them and you get that alarm fatigue that sometimes we get when an alarm's been going off for too long, we just ignore it, then you no longer hear the warning signs. But that doesn't mean the warning signs are not there. So you've got to pay attention to what's going on in your body. Take care of what's stressors when they are a whisper, and then you won't be forced to deal with them when it's a cry for help. So listen, pay attention. If you have to put your stethoscope on yourself, and do what you got to do, but you've got to listen to what's going on within your own body because only you know how you handle stress. So is all stress bad, or do we simply just let it get out of control? And so I want to hear you guys' feedback. What do you think? Do you think that all stress is bad, or do you think this is maybe something that we let get out of control and we need to put it back in check and it's meant for a better purpose? Yep, I hear some people saying it gets out of control. Very cool. Yep, you guys are agreeing. Okay, I love it. You guys are smarter than me. Not all stress is bad. I used to think this. I used to think, oh, stress is bad. It's a bad word. No, not all stress is bad. If you actually go back to the fight or flight response, stress is not bad at all. It actually was designed to save us and protect us. Like I said, your body always wants to protect you. So I love this little cartoon where it has the bear where you're either going to fight him or you're going to run from him. And that's exactly what this system is designed for. Our cortisol, our adrenal gland, all of that is there as a purpose to protect you so that when you need to go, you go. And when it's time to rest, you rest. The problem is we let it get out of control and we stay in fight or flight mode all the time. And then we're leaving our bodies up for attack from different things because our cortisol is through the roof. Our adrenal glands are overworked, and we're feeling it, and our body's going to present that in different ways. For me, unfortunately, it presented it as heart arrhythmias. Being a cardiac ICU nurse, that was not a good day. But for others, maybe they'll start all of a sudden having really bad headaches. And so whatever way your body's going to bring it to you, we need to deal with it. Otherwise, it's set up to set you up for success and protect you. So we can't control everything. That is a fact of life. But we can take control of the things that we can. And we kind of alluded to this slide on our last talk, but I'm going to talk about 3 tips for dealing with stress, particularly in our nursing world. And those are the whole thing where I keep joking about maintaining an airway for ourselves and just breathe, and getting outside and remembering to laugh. Like, these are 3 things that we can work on right away, and then I'm going to talk about some more ways that we can handle stress later on in the presentation. All right, so maintain an airway for yourself. What does that mean? I mean, obviously, we're all walking around breathing, or we wouldn't be a nurse anymore. We would be a patient at that point. So there's a trick, though, here. Are you breathing at work like you're telling your patients to? What do we tell our patients, especially the post-op hearts, which is my world? But we tell them that they need to do their incentive spirometer. They need to take good, deep breaths. Whenever we're listening to their lungs, we're always telling them, you need to take good, deep breaths. And they're hurting and they're in pain. They don't want to. They're tired. But we make them do it for purposes of we don't want them to get a pneumonia while they're in the hospital. We want to make sure their lungs are working properly and functioning after surgery and getting things back to normal. And so we make them do these things. But I don't know about you guys, a lot of times while they're sitting there doing their breathing exercises, I'm either charting or cleaning up the room or checking out something else on them. And I'm not doing my breathing exercises. I'm not taking deep breaths throughout my shift, and you guys probably can agree with me on that. We're just going through the motions of doing what we got to do. There's no time to stop and take a deep breath. So that's the thing that's kind of curious, is we're telling our patients to do something that we're not doing. So deep breath for everyone. So, you know, it's the funny thing is sometimes you have patients that might say to you, I'm not breathing, and their stats are like 99%, and they're begging you for oxygen, and you're like, oh, if you're talking, you are in fact breathing, and you kind of have to just work them through some anxiety and stuff. So yeah, obviously if you're talking, you're breathing. Had a nurse one time, she said she couldn't tell if the patient was breathing or not, but the patient was like, basically like, hi, my name is Fred. I'm like, well, if he's talking, I think he's breathing okay. So there's just some of that. And then shallow breathing keeps us alive, but deep breathing is what really keeps us healthy. Like, there's so many health benefits that come from taking a good deep breath, and I know it seems like so minor or so small, but if you ever were to actually do it, if you did those 10 breaths with your patient, you might feel a little bit different afterwards. If you went to a yoga class and did the breathing exercises through a yoga class, if you got outside and just took that deep breath, there are so many things your body does, like it lowers your heart rate, lowers your blood pressure, calms the neuron firing back and forth in your brain a little bit. So there are those actual scientific proven reasons on why deep breaths are good for our body. So how do we make that actually happen for us? It's all about that bass. Now, I know you guys know the song, so I'm not going to sing it to you because I don't want to hurt your ears. But in order for you to correctly deep, you have to think that it's all about that bass. It's all about the base of your lungs. So if you're shallow breathing and you're just breathing with your upper chest area, you're not filling up the entire capacity of your lungs. And we've all seen plenty of chest x-rays. We've seen, you know, all the things that can happen with our patients in their lungs. So you know that that field takes up a lot more room than just this upper area of your chest, which is where we tend to breathe when we're in the moment. So if you can think about actually taking in enough oxygen and taking a deep breath, it will actually fill up those lungs and expand all the way to the base of them. And then when you exhale, so like almost like you're pushing the air all the way from the bottom back out through the top and back out through your mouth or nose. Use your body to help you in the process. Like when it's stressful, take those deep breaths. It's free. It takes just a second, but the benefits of it are very valuable. So how many of you have actually performed a round of breathing on one of these? On one of the incentive spirometers? And I didn't even realize there were so many different versions of the incentive spirometer. But how many of you have actually used one? Like if you were a patient, I'm sure you've had the opportunity to use one, but how many of you have actually done like a competition on the incentive spirometer with your coworkers? Nope, not haven't. If you haven't yet, then I highly recommend it. And I'm not saying you should steal equipment from your hospital, but there are ways to make this happen. We actually had a competition one day at work where we all tried to see how high we could get on the incentive spirometer, and we made guesses and bets first, and then we did it. And the sad part was we couldn't get as high as we thought we could, and some of us couldn't even get as high as our fresh, brand new post-op open heart patient. So clearly we had some work to do. We need to work on getting our cardiovascular and our respiratory health on track. Oh, and I see some of you have tried it before. So what numbers did you get up to? Were you guys like marathon people getting numbers high up there? If you haven't tried, I say try it. It gives you a good indication of where you're at with these things. Plus, it's a lot of fun. Have a competition with your friends and coworkers. All right. So go towards the light. It's okay. In our world, going towards the light is not always a good thing. So sometimes when we're doing CPR, we're definitely telling our patient to come back from the light. But in this case, what I want to talk to you guys about is how going towards the light is actually okay. And what I'm talking about light in this incident is outside light, like going outside and being in the great outdoors. So get your gluteus maximus outside, and this is Captain Obvious, and everyone wants to know, oh, what's the health benefit there? And people say, oh, it's the vitamin D. Well, that's pretty obvious, but there are several other reasons that maybe you didn't know or maybe you haven't heard about on why being actually physically outside is good for your health and your stress. One thing it does is it helps improve eye stress. So since we are all computer charting and doing all these things on our computers, and if we're not, we still have our cell phones that we tend to always be looking at, or on social media, like our eyes have got a lot of attention now on some kind of screen, tablet, computer for a good portion of our day. So getting outside can actually improve your eye health in two very big ways. And those two ways are preventing computer vision syndrome. Now, I've been in the medical field for a while, and I have never heard of this syndrome. So this is obviously something that has come into being in the last several years with the advances in technology, and they've even made it a new syndrome. So that will be your new medical terminology for today, CVS, Computer Vision Syndrome. So this basically is used to describe eye problems that are caused from staring at a screen too close to your face for prolonged periods of time. So getting outside can actually help with this. I don't know if they're saying like get outside and just take the screen away from your eyes completely. That's what I would say as a health coach. But even just having your eyes, even if you're still staring at your screen, have that external light from the outdoors get in, does many benefits for your vision. But I would say if you can, get off the device for a little bit and get outside. Artificial light actually provokes nearsightedness. So new research shows that our ever-increased exposure to artificial light may have a negative impact on nearsightedness. So if you're starting to notice some visual changes and you're blaming it maybe on your age or oh, it's just the way it is, it could have something to do with the amount of exposure to artificial light. And we get exposed to this all the time, not even on screens. Even the lights in the hospital, like the lights in the hospital are bright, but they're that way for a reason. We need to be able to see wounds. We need to be able to see color and clarity and different things of our patients. So we need the light, but having long exposure, especially in 12-hour shifts, can really do some stuff to your eyes. So get outside and get that real natural light. Expose your eyes back to the kind of light that it was used to having. This new created light that we've had, it's not used to that. And so get out there and give your eyes a break. Close them, go outside, be in the fresh air. Do it for your eye health because we're going to need our eyes for anything we want to do in our career. All right, sometimes you just need to disconnect. Now, how many of you have ever had the alarms beeping in your floor and there's flat lines all over the monitor and people are running around trying to figure out what's going on? Not really. Not if you have a lot of experienced nurses and they see that, oh, that's just a lead disconnect. And then you go check on your patient and find out your patient is perfectly fine and there's no need to worry. But maybe in the beginning years or you nurses might run in the room thinking the patient's flatlined. So the lesson always was check the person, not the equipment. But sometimes we just need to disconnect. We just need to disconnect from all the equipment. And we need to get ourselves away for a little bit. And it's very hard to do during your shift. I know it's busy. A lot of us don't even get breaks. Sometimes we spend our breaks catching up on charting, which is more exposure to the electronics. But sometimes you just need to disconnect, even if it's just 5 minutes. And maybe the only place you can find to get those 5 minutes is to go hide in the bathroom. But at least go in there and just disconnect from what's going on. So if it's so stressful and you're feeling the overwhelm, have someone watch your patients and just disconnect. Or on your lunch break, when you finally get it, go outside. Actually use that time to not go from staring at one screen to go stare at another screen. Get outside, get some fresh air, and disconnect from the environment that you're currently dealing with. And I know that outside the hospital may not be the best fresh air and conditions for you to go out to, especially if you're in one of the inner city hospitals and there's still a lot of cars and different things. But actually, outdoor pollution is far less risky than exposure to indoor pollutants. So being outside near nature is better than being in a parking lot, but getting outdoors is still better than not going outside at all. So if your only option is just to go outside the emergency room doors and just be at least exposed to some kind of fresh air, the studies are actually showing that there is a lot of chemical contaminants and different things within the buildings that we work in, just that comes from what comes from the equipment we use, the radiation, the lights like we talked about, the different chemicals. So if you can, get outside and just get some fresh air. And another point to this is, on the days that you're not at work, find time to go outside, because then you're not being forced to be stuck in a room with a patient because they need constant monitoring. You're not forced to be worried about threat of abandonment of your patients if you leave. At home, on your days off, you have full reign and you can get yourself outside. So make sure that you're getting plenty of exposure to the outdoors on the days that you're off, because there may not be an option for that on the days that you're there. All right, so what happens when all else fails? What if I can't get outside and I can't disconnect and I'm stuck there and I'm still in a stressful situation and there's no option for escape? Well, when all else fails, you can always use the best medicine. It doesn't matter where you work. This stuff works everywhere. It's fantastic. So whether you're working East Coast, West Coast, you're working in ICU, you're working on the floor, inpatient, outpatient, it doesn't matter. This stuff is amazing. And if you haven't already guessed what I'm talking about, it's laughter. Always has, always will be the best medicine. All right, so it's hard to feel bad when you're laughing. I don't know if you've ever tried it. I don't know if people have tried to cheer you up and then you start laughing and you're like, okay, things are a little bit better and in check. And especially if there's a crazy situation going on and someone makes a joke, it just kind of lightens the mood a little bit. I know sometimes, in code situations, your patient's crumping, they're not doing very well. It can be very stressful, and all you're doing is worrying about how they're doing. You're worrying about the family. You're worrying about, are you going to get in trouble? Whatever the reasons may be that you feel stressed in that moment, if a doctor comes in the room and instead of yelling at everybody, he cracks a joke, it just kind of lightens the mood and makes things a little better. And even if you don't physically laugh out loud because you're still stressed, at least it kind of airs things out a little bit, the fact that he came in a little bit lighter than, the previously. So when's the last time that you had a from the belly, eye-watering, side cramping, I can't breathe, I just might pee myself, that was so kind of funny, laugh? When's the last time you had that? Oh, and I see you guys are popping up and say it's been a while. Well, if you can't remember the last time, you are definitely overdue, and we want to work on that because I personally like to find humor in all things. And if you need some, let me know, because we will get together and we will crack up. All right, so did you know, let's talk about laughter, a few facts about it. Laughter actually reduces stress, and since that's the topic of the day, we need to find ways to deal with stress. Laughing reduces stress. Not only that, but it lowers your blood pressure and it enhances your immune system. If you feel like you're getting sick all the time, maybe you got to get out there and laugh more. You got to have some fun. You got to get out there and just crack up. Go to a comedy show. Hang out with that friend that always seems to say the one-liner that just gets you every time. Like, do the things that you know work to make you laugh, because you're going to help your health and your body with that. You're going to bring down your stress response, which will then increase your immune system, and maybe you won't get sick so much. Some scientists have actually found that laughing 100 times is equal to 10 to 15 minutes of cardiac exercise. Now, when I first read this, I was like, that's kind of crazy how they got this in the first place or came to this conclusion to laugh 100 times. And I say I laugh a lot, but I don't know about 100 times in any one sitting, or if maybe each ha-ha counts as one, and then you can get 100 in real quickly. But that's just a little fun fact that apparently scientists have researched this, and if you can laugh 100 times, it's like 10 to 15 minutes of cardiac exercise, and if they recommend 30 minutes a day, I guess you need to start laughing 200 times a day. So mentally, laughter is a way to release harmful emotions. So whether you express your stress externally and blow up or vent or, let it out, or if you express your stress internally and you just hold it in. Maybe people don't even know you're stressed because you're so good at covering it up. Those harmful emotions are still kept on the inside, wreaking havoc on your whole system. Like, you may be able to front it on the outside, but on the inside there's stuff happening. So mentally, if you can crack up and laugh, it's a way to release those pent-up tensions and emotions, and just kind of let things go and let it roll off your shoulders and out of your mouth, obviously in the form of laughter. So what if I can't find anything funny? What if I'm just having such a bad day, I'm so stressed, it's just so chaotic, the doctors are all angry, the patients are all upset. What if I can't find anything funny? And I just wanted to share this little thing with you guys that I actually said. What it is basically, it may not be funny in the moment. In fact, it may be painful, it may be stressful, it may even be heartbreaking. But if you can reflect back on it later, given some time, because not everything is funny in the moment, but a lot of times we can find that things are funny in hindsight. But if you can find the good or the humor in it, later on, then it was another life experience that you can add to your book of you. And I always look at people's lives like this. Like, you have a book, you're writing the chapters. You can label this chapter or this paragraph or however long this episode was that really brought you down. You can label that as the what the hell that turned into the LOL. So think about that. If it's not funny in the moment, if you're like, I can't find any way to make this a funny situation, turn your what the hell into an LOL, write that chapter, and that will be inspiration for somebody later on, okay? And then the other thing is, I don't know if you guys have seen this doctor or not. This is a doctor that I follow and a lot of nurses follow as well because she's a very big advocate for nurses. But if you need a double dose of humor, you need to look up ZDoggMD, and that is DOGG MD. So he is actually a doctor that was up at Stanford. His name is Zibin Damana, and I actually asked for his permission to be able to talk about this and present this in my slide, and he was honored that I did that. But he is hilarious. He does videos about songs, and he does videos for nurses. He does videos for how things are in the hospital, and you can totally relate to him, but he finds a way to bring up the causes and concerns of what's going on in the healthcare system in a funny way. So it's relatable, it makes you laugh, and it's really good entertainment. So my prescription for you would be to watch one video, BIDPRN, stress, anxiety, lack of laughter, and stay tuned for a refill from Dr. Damana because he is always putting something funny out there. So check him out. You can just put it in Google and you will find him. But he's hilarious and you can relate to him. His common quote is, he's slightly funnier than a placebo. So check that out if you're looking for somewhere to find humor. All right, so what are some things you can do for yourself today that will help with stress? Me time. Me time is my number one favorite thing that needs to happen because I know as healthcare providers, there's not a lot of me time. There's everyone else time, but there's not a lot of me time. There is you taking care of the patients, you taking care of the patient's family, you taking care of the doctors, you taking care of the other nurses, respiratory therapists, physical therapists. Like, you're kind of a jack of all trades of taking care of everyone, which makes you so good at what you do and why you got into this field in the first place. But you need to take time for yourself and realize taking time for yourself is not selfish. It is actually very good to do, and it will make you a better caregiver. It will make you a better parent, a better friend. It will make you a better family member. It will do so much for you to just get away by yourself, be with your own thoughts, do your own things, and not have to answer or take care of anybody else but yourself. So make sure you make time for me time. Make your days off. No work worries on your days off. Wasted energy. Whatever happened, I mean, you can mentally work on it in your head for a little bit, but don't harbor on it for all your days off. That's wasting your day off. The reason you have a day off is to be away from all that stuff. So enjoy your days off. Have fun. Go do something you like. If you sleep all day, I mean, at least that's better than sitting there stressing and worrying about things that have already happened or things to come. So make your days off your days off. Take at least 5 minutes before every shift to either pray, meditate, listen to your favorite songs, listen to your favorite audio tape, whatever it may be, to just kind of have like a fresh start, reset. Don't run right into work and jump right into the grind. Make those 5 minutes before your shift to kind of zone out for a minute, be like, okay, here's the day ahead. Let's do this. Preparing your mind mentally for that automatically will make you have somewhat of a better day and mindset going into that 12 hours or however long your shift may be. Taking care of yourself on those days off and prep days on is actually really important. I mean, there are days when there's just nothing we can do while we're in the shift, in the moment. It is what it is. It is chaotic. So there isn't an opportunity to take care of ourselves while we're there. That is why on the days that you're not there, it's so important to make sure that you're taking time to take care of yourself. And we kind of talked about that with me time. And then after work, take time to reflect on the day. Like, search for the good in it, because there are those days where you're like, there was no good in this day. That was bad. But see if you can find any little nuggets that came out of that 12 hours, the long time frame, even if it was, I got a break today, or, you know, my patient smiled, or whatever the little thing may be. Look for those little nuggets. And then let the rest go. The day is done. Don't take more than 20 minutes reflecting on what happened. mulling through it in your brain, trying to figure out what you could have done better, blaming yourself, whatever these negative emotions are that sometimes come out of really bad days on the shift, don't take more than 20 minutes after your shift dealing with it. Move on to your life outside of work after that and let it be. Another great tip is to remind yourself that you are stronger than you think you are. Keep focusing on your goals. Keep going. Use the support of those around you, but you are actually a lot stronger than you think you are. And some of you may not feel that way, but that's why I'm here to remind you that you are actually stronger than you think you are. Don't go to work on an empty stomach. I know some of you are like, I don't have time in the morning, it's too busy, I'm not hungry at that time. But my big tip for being a nurse for all these years is, at least eat something. Don't go to work on an empty stomach and always pack food for you to eat. You're going into a war zone some days. You got to be prepared. I used to run to work and not eat breakfast, and I'm like, I'll get lunch. Lunch would happen at like 3 p.m. in the afternoon, so you're already starving from that long. Your mind is like, I need fuel. I can't think properly because I don't have anything to eat. And then guess what? You go and the cafeteria is closed. So you can never rely on outside sources, so therefore prepare yourself. Definitely find time to at least eat something before you go in for your shift, and pack a bag of stuff to eat, because you never know if the food source you were relying on, whether it be the cafeteria or leftovers or whatever the day shift might not have left for you on night shift. I know I did night shift too. So bring your own food, and that way you can determine what that food will be, and we will talk about healthier, hungrier food to eat. If you're listening to Amy's wellness talk too, she's going to teach you guys a lot of things about what you can take to work for healthy eating. But a hungry mind is a stressful mind, so don't starve your brain. It needs fuel so it can think properly. On your days off, again, spend time with your pet, your family, your friends, your coworkers that you like, the ones that, make you feel happy, make you feel alive, make you realize why you do what you do. Spend time with those. That bonding is so beneficial for reducing stress. Like you hear all the time about how people with pets live longer. There's a reason. There's something to the bonding with either another human being or animal. Take deep breaths every time you hear a call bell. So people ask me, well, how am I supposed to remember to get those deep breaths? And in the moment you're just busy running around, then at the end of the day you realize, I didn't take those deep breaths you told me to. So a good way to remember it, and a way to calm yourself from those ever-annoying call bells, is every time you hear a call bell or one of your monitor alarms dinging, that's when you take your deep breath. That's a lot in a day, right? If you think about how many call bells go off and how many alarms are ringing all day, you will get a good amount of deep breaths in, and you will be really benefiting your health. So hear that sound, and instead of being like, oh no, who's calling for me now, take your deep breath. That's a good way to remember it. And last but not least, plan a trip or vacation every 3 to 4 months. Even if it's only for a weekend away, even if it's only for a day off, get out of town, go somewhere, go do something so that you have something to look forward every 3 to 4 months. Usually, by the time you need a vacation, it's already there. So I had to learn this tip the hard way, because my first year in ICU, I was so worried about making sure I got everything correct, and I studied and did all this stuff because I didn't want to be the nurse that didn't know what I was talking about. But I didn't take a vacation for the first year. And then I wondered why year 2 I was questioning whether I wanted to be an ICU nurse. And one of the ICU nurses came to me and said, you're doing it all wrong. Plan a vacation every 3 to 4 months. I'm going to check on you for this the next year. And she did. So for the next year, she was like, when's your next vacation planned? When's your next trip? And, I can't even tell you the benefit that did for me in my career and in my life, was to know that every 3 to 4 months I was going to be doing something awesome. So I could work hard, play hard, and I knew when my next trip was coming. It made a huge difference. Even if it was just the weekend, it made a huge difference. Because if you wait to book until you need it, well, then it's stressful trying to book everything last minute. So just go ahead and do that ahead of time. The same is true for massages and any kind of self-care. I'm bad about this. I always wait until the shoulders are hurting to try and get a massage appointment. Book these things ahead of time. Just make it who you are and what you do. It's your lifestyle. I'm a nurse. That means I get massages, and don't feel bad for it. Do the things that you need to do to reduce stress so that you can be a better nurse, you can be a better person, and take care of your health. All right, so that is my talk and tips for you guys on stress. I hope that helps. I hope you guys are feeling a little bit better, and you'll get out there and do your deep breaths when you hear those call bells. If you have any questions, you can always email me at youheartlife@gmail.com. Follow me on any of the social media sites as well. I have really enjoyed presenting this to you guys. I would love to hear from you and get your feedback on things. So definitely don't be a stranger. Feel free to reach out. It is Nurse Talking to Nurse. You don't have to edit what you say, so feel free. I look forward to seeing you guys on future talks. Thank you, everyone, for joining me tonight, and I will talk to you later.
Thank you, Shannon, and thanks everyone that was able to join. We will be posting these and look forward to connecting with you further on the rest of these presentations. If you haven't yet, please sign up for the remainder of the presentations that work in your schedule, and don't forget to join the Aya Wellness community on Facebook. You should be receiving links to both of those in the follow-up emails from this presentation. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a wonderful day.